Welcome once again to the Hot Seat, your program brought to you by MNL, and I am your host, Thomas Mangwiro. And today I am joined by Shadreck, Chinemberi, the Harare Volleyball Association Chairperson. And to the Harare Volleyball faithful, it's not all good news, as the Harare Volleyball Chairperson, Shadreck Chinemberi, has resigned from his post and he will be leaving on the 15th of February 2025. Before we start, our compliments to the new year. It is a new episode from MNL. Welcome to the show, Shadi.
Thank you.
You are leaving. Unfortunately, we are starting the year when the chairperson is leaving. Why are you leaving the association? You have been working so hard for.
Thank you. I think my letter by now has been in the public domain now, my resignation letter. And yes, I am leaving the institution effective 15 February after the extraordinary general meeting, which will be on the 15th of February. The main and primary reason that I'm leaving the association is for professional and personal reasons. I have to focus on other areas of my life at the moment, which over the last year I have not been able to focus on, as I was putting a bit of more energy in getting things up and running on the HVA side. As you are aware, in volleyball in Harare, not just in Harare, but in Zimbabwe in general, from a financial point of view, requires quite a bit of work. Most of our clubs and associations, both at local, national and provincial level, are financially hamstrung. So to have everything up and running and properly running requires quite a bit to organize, put funds together, look for sponsors, organize the sponsors, get the funds in. And that was quite a bit of a commitment which we had to do last year. I had a very strong team backing me up who assisted me tremendously. The current HVA executives, I would like to place it on record that those guys did an amazing job, and I was very happy with the work that we did together. But going into 2025, I realized that a lot of the personal things and professional things which I sacrificed in 2024, I would not be able to do the same in 2025. Therefore, I felt that the best thing was for me to allow somebody else to be able to come and take over and lead the association.
You said you want to focus on yourself and on your life, and you promised the electorate that the Harare Volleyball family was going to be part of your family, yes, and also your life.
Yes.
Why are you winning them now?
They are still part of my life, but it is to the extent to which they are part of my life now, which is only adjusted. I'm quite sure you will see that throughout the year, you will see me as part of your family. Yes. You will see me as and when required. And I've already committed to the current executive that those initiatives which required my input and may still require my input, I'll still be available to assist and try to get them over the line so that the association keeps on running. So it is not that I'm leaving the family entirely, no. All I'm simply saying is my role within the family has to change. Because at the end of the day, I also have to consider my own personal family outside of the volleyball family. I also have to consider my work family outside of the volleyball family. And I have to get the right balance in all those areas, which ensures that at the end of the day, I'm also able to live a harmonious and peaceful life.
After the elections at Nkushi Depot sometime in April last year,
yes,
you said if the electorate could elect a team that could gel and work together, things were going to work out.
Yes.
Is it part of your reasons leaving that the team that was selected could not gel?
No, not at all. Like I pointed out earlier on, and I said I would like to acknowledge the team that I worked with. The results that we achieved last season, in as far as firstly making sure that we were able to run the league and complete it. We were able to host a totally new tournament, which was the Pink Topper tournament. We were able to provide prize money for every single one of the tournaments that we actually hosted. And that in itself would not have been possible if we were not gelling, if we were not aligned, if we were not all focused on one goal, which was to ensure that the Harare as a league is able to become the Premier League within the whole of the Zimbabwe volleyball fraternity. And I do believe that we actually achieved it. if you look at the results of the actual National League itself, I think out of the top 6 teams, 5 are from Harare. Okay, if you look on the ladies side, I think all the ladies teams, all the top 4 again, they're from Harare. So you notice that from that perspective, our team was able to be what I would say a success. We had, as any team anyway, we all have our different strengths, we all have our own weaknesses. But I think as the executive that was in place, we were able to ride on each other's strengths and minimize each other's weaknesses, and ensure that as an executive, we're able to focus on one goal. So you will find that in my time within the whole executive, we do not have any instances where we were misaligned or where one person ended up trying to do something which was not in line with what we had agreed. Within our own selves as an executive, we were able to ensure that every goal that we wanted to achieve within the year, we were able to achieve. The only goal that we actually missed was the end of season tournament. And that was from a purely financial point of view. We no longer had the funds by the time we closed off the season. And then we also had to allow the clubs which were competing in the National League enough time to also go and finish off their National League games. But otherwise, in terms of us as an executive, we gelled, and I believe we worked well, and I don't think we had any issues.
Actually, people are said out there that you promised them that you're going to improve the brand Harare Volleyball, and there were some glimpses showing that the brand was improving, and now you are leaving.
Yes. Remember, in improving the brand, it's a family effort. Right?
Yes.
It's not just one person who's going to come and improve the brand. What should happen now is that we have gathered enough steam, as you have put it, to say that we are showing that Harare Volleyball can be a different brand. What we now need is for everybody else to now come on board and be able to pull together to ensure that that which we're already building on carries on being built. Remember, volleyball is not about the executive itself or the association itself. The association and the executive work as representatives of the clubs. They serve a mandate as provided for by the clubs. So whatever the association and the executive are doing, ultimately is there to work for the clubs. So for brand Harare Volleyball to be good, it also means that the clubs underneath are supporting that. So even if I'm no longer there, the fact that we've got a positive shift that has happened means it can carry on. Remember, within the executive, we still have 4 members who will still be there, and they are still able to push on and carry on. And from the elections, I think, which will happen on the 15th, I do believe we have enough competent people within Harare Volleyball who will be able to come in and carry on and ensure that that brand that we were building continues to improve with year after year after year.
Okay, Shadreck. That was Shadreck Chinemberi talking to us about his resignation from the Harare Volleyball Association. We'll get more when we come back in the second segment, especially talking about other people. We understand from the executive, one of the vice chairpersons has been elevated to the Zimbabwe Volleyball Association, and there was also another resignation. We'll talk about that and more in the second segment. Welcome again. This is the second segment of this episode of the MNL Hot Seat, brought to you by GEMCON and MNL. My name is Thomas Mangwero, and today I am joined by Shadreck Chinemberi, the Harare Volleyball Association Chairperson, and we're talking about his resignation. Chairman, when you tendered your resignation, a few hours later, we saw another resignation from the treasurer. And the treasurer is the one Desire Joanna Pasi, who the executive co-opted after a nomination for the treasurer was not forthcoming. Was it planned?
Okay. I think the treasurer, after he submitted my resignation letter, I think the treasurer general did give me a call and he indicated that he was also stepping down. And I think his letter was quite specific again, which I also believe is now in the public domain. He was saying since he was not voted into office, but was co-opted, and the co-option was when I nominated him within the executive, and the rest of the executive agreed before we then approached him. He then felt that since he was not an elected person, but one who had been co-opted, it was best fit for him to live with the person who had nominated him into that position. And then secondly, normally issues of monies are very tricky, you know. You want as best as possible that people who are working with money are all aligned and are moving together. So he also felt that whoever is then voted in as the chairman should have that room to find a person that they know that they can deal with when it comes to issues of money in an aligned manner. So as an example which I can give you is when it comes to issues of payments and following up on creditors and debtors, you'd find that if we are not aligned, one may feel that why are we paying, for example, why should we hurry to pay HVA their levies when we have not yet paid our subs for the clubs, for example. So what then happens is that if you are not aligned, you may find the treasurer will follow and say, I will do what I feel is right, and let me do this payment. While the chairman is saying, but I also have a mandate to save the clubs, let me do this. But when the two of you are aligned and you are able to work together, it makes life much easier. So from that perspective, Desire then felt that it was better for him to also live together with me. Should the people then be able to go back to him and say, we want to nominate you and vote for you, then that becomes a different scenario. Because you are now an elected what? Candidate. So you now go back to the electorate to say, to make your own decision. But ultimately, we must also not forget that volleyball is not an income generating it's not an income generating institution. It's not an income generating sport. Right? So whoever serves within the volleyball executive, they are serving voluntarily. There is no financial benefit to it. So at times one also has to be able to consider and say, to what benefit do I want to carry on doing this? It's a passion for the sport which will require for you to carry on. And I think from that perspective, you find a lot of people then have to make some of the decisions which I'm referring to, say at a personal level, how much more can I give of myself to this sport? Can I continue to give of myself to this sport? Or I would rather now take a back seat and allow others with more passion than me to carry on. And some of that passion was driven by the fact that we were together in there. And he probably felt that now that I will no longer be there, he may not have the same passion, he may not be aligned to the next chairman, so it was better for him to actually step down.
So from here, we saw the first cycle of the elections last year. Yes. That was the chairperson and committee members. There was no nomination for SG, and there was no nomination for treasurer who was co-opted.
Yes.
I understand on the 15th of February there are going to be elections for the second cycle. Yes. So are we going to see the election of a new chairperson and also that of the treasurer and that other committee member who was not nominated last year?
Unfortunately, no. So let me explain so that people understand this. I know that there's been a lot of talk and there's been a lot of misunderstandings around that particular issue. Yes. Right? If you look at the current Harare Volleyball Association constitution, what it says is that if I step down or I now become incapacitated, right?
Yes.
Whoever is currently sitting in the position of VC1 takes over as chairman.
Yes.
And then at the next annual general meeting, right, the clubs then confirm that position, which will then run until the end of that term. So in this particular case, our current VC1 was Obama. Unfortunately, Obama has already been elevated to ZVA. So in terms of, and remember, Obama also came in midstream and was finishing off somebody else's term.
Yes.
So what it means is on the AGM on the 15th of February, right, the VC1 post is up for grabs.
Yes.
The VC2 post is up for grabs.
Yes.
The committee member, gender and minority is up for grabs. Those are the three positions which are up for elections on the 15th. Whoever is then voted VC1, if we wanted to follow the constitution, is currently written.
Yes.
Whoever is voted VC1, right? If the clubs are happy with who they have voted, they can then automatically confirm him as acting chairperson until the end of my term for the next election cycle. Alternatively, the clubs may insist that they now want to vote in a new chairman and a new treasurer general. What it then means is that they have to vote to hold an extraordinary Congress
for the election.
Election of those
It
posts.
cannot be done on the 15th.
It cannot be done on the 15th of February. Constitutionally, it cannot be done on the 15th of February. What they can do on the 15th of February is vote for these posts which I pointed out. And then if they so desire, like I'm saying, they can then vote and say if 2/3, if I'm not mistaken, I don't know if it should be, but it should be 2/3. If 2/3 of the clubs vote that we want to vote an extraordinary Congress,
Yes.
then they vote that they want to hold an extraordinary Congress, at which Congress they can now then vote for a new chairman and a new treasurer general.
Okay, well, viewers, you've heard it for yourselves that they are going to vote for the VC, for the 2 vice chairpersons, and making the acting chairperson until the end of the term, or opt to have an EGM to elect a new chairperson. Quite tricky, chairperson.
Unfortunately, like I said, people have to follow the constitution, because we don't want to end up with a crisis where, whilst logically to somebody seated somewhere, it makes sense to say the clubs are already here, let's vote for a new chairperson. Somebody can then take it to the Constitutional Court, outside of us, to the High Court, outside of us, to SRC, even to ZVA even, and say the current committee is not properly constituted. And if you go by the Constitution, that person would be correct. But there's still a way out, which is what I'm pointing out to now. You see, you appoint you vote in your VC1, you vote in your VC2, you vote in your committee members. Then ask, somebody has to, from the clubs themselves, have to then say, we want a vote for an extraordinary Congress to elect a new chairman.
And
then
talking about
have to vote
talking about the Constitution,
yes.
When you were elected last term,
yes.
There were issues about the Constitution.
Yes.
Did you take on the issues and put them into finance?
All the issues which have been raised on the Constitution. We actually held a meeting last year in May to do with the Constitution. The first meeting there was no quorum. Then on the second meeting, in line with our Constitution, the number of clubs which came through, we then had to go through the Constitution with those who were present. And all the suggested amendments were discussed and voted for and incorporated into the current Constitution.
Well, viewers, this is Shadreck Chinemberi, the Harare Volleyball Association chairperson, talking to us. And this was the second segment of this episode. We are going away for a few minutes. When we come back, it will be the third and final segment of this program. Stay tuned. Welcome to the third and final segment of this episode of the Hot Seat. My name is Thomas Mangwero, and today I'm sitting here with the chairperson of the Harare Volleyball Association, Shadreck Chinemberi. This is a program brought to you by MNL and partnered by GEMCON. When we went away, we were talking about the Constitution, but now we have invited a few people to give in or rather ask questions from the chairperson. Unfortunately, we don't have much of them, but let me get this one. Chairperson, we've got one here from an anonymous sender. A good leader is praised not because of his experience in the office, but by his successor. Before handing in your nomination and resignation after running one season, did you think of succession and or how to promote and protect volleyball in Harare?
I think firstly we need to consider that I understand where the question comes from, but we also need to understand that the way the association is actually chosen is such that one may not necessarily need to put in place a succession plan as per se, as been proposed or is being spoken of by the question. The clubs themselves, remember, nominate who they want to be the chairperson. So even if I had run my full term after 4 years, it is the clubs who are then going to decide, am I fit to carry on for another term, or they want to find someone else who will then take over from me. So if I were to start developing a successor, it means I'm actually taking away the power from the clubs who are supposed to do the nomination and then be able to present their own candidate. So ideally what should happen now is the clubs themselves should be developing leaders among themselves who they see fit to be able to take over the chairmanship of Harare Volleyball Association as and when required. It does not have to be coming from one club, it does not have to be coming from a particular set of institutions, but each club should be looking at its own leadership to say, this is my belief, that any chairperson of any club should be able to take over chairmanship of Harare Volleyball Association if called upon. So which is where the leadership strengthening is supposed to happen at club level. Then at association level, it is the grouping together of a strong base of leaders who have already come from the clubs, who will then be able to run the association.
Another one, an anonymous, is saying wavunzei kuti vari kusiyire basa after one season. You've already answered that one, but maybe
okay, maybe like I pointed out, during this, when I joined the Harare Volleyball Association, so that people understand, even when you change jobs, etc., you have a certain expectation of how things are going to run, how things are going to work, how things are going to be. However, once in the position, that's when you then start to see it's not famba so, it's not famba so, it's not that so, it's not that time yakati, it's not that time yakati. Which I pointed out when I answered earlier on to say, over the course of 2024, I have a lot of personal and professional things which I had to sacrifice and put on the back burner so that we could be able to run through the league and finish off the season. However, I could not then commit the same energy and the same sacrifice going forward until I finished the term. And this is a realization which only happened when I had joined office and then now realize the scale of the amount of work that I needed to do and the scale of the activities that I always needed to make myself available for. Hence my then decision to say, no, I cannot be able to continue with this job because I'm looking at what I'm sacrificing versus what I'm actually doing. And at a personal level, so that people realize this. This is at a personal level where I then said I would rather then take a back seat and allow someone else who has the energy, the time and the commitment to be able to fully immerse themselves and do what needs to be done. Unfortunately, I cannot do something half-heartedly. I could have decided that, no, this year let volleyball what? Suffer. It's okay. Notice our energy here and here. But there are times when the moment you do that, the fall there then becomes very obvious and visible. And also, you may not then be able to recover in the same way I'm not trying to recover on where I had sacrificed over the course of the last year.
And the last question from our viewers, Mr. Chinemberi, are you happy with the decision your executive made to strip support unit ladies of their mid-season tournament title? Again from an anonymous.
We are very happy with the decision taken. With yes, there were errors in terms of the way we then administered the whole process, but eventually the club itself was written to, and the charge was proffered, and the club pleaded guilty, which is something I think which a lot of our viewers need to be aware of. The fact that the club itself pleaded guilty to the charge. What the club pleaded about at the time was the punishment. To then say the punishment you are meting out on us, we feel is not commensurate with the charge which you have given us, and therefore can you therefore be lenient in terms of the actual punishment. But in as far as saying whether the correct decision was taken, yes, I do believe the correct decision was taken. All the clubs do sign and say we will abide by the rules and regulations of the association, and they will abide by what is required of the association. So sadly, in that particular tournament, the support unit ladies had a grievance which they felt they needed to demonstrate immediately, and which they did. Unfortunately, the way they addressed their grievance was not in line with the expectations of the rules and regulations which the club is already signed up for. And in terms of that, they were then charged. And again, I will repeat, support unit as an institution pleaded guilty. Support unit as an institution had several discussions back and forth with the Harare Volleyball Association, which is on record with support unit. And those who want may be able to talk to them and clear with them. Because as far as we are concerned as an executive, were happy with the decision taken. The club was charged, pleaded guilty, and they were given a penalty. Which penalty they pleaded on, which our executive took a position on regarding that penalty.
Well, you've heard it for yourselves, the anonymous sender, the chairperson has talked, but maybe to ask, you talked about administrative bungling. What was the issue, the way the issue was administered?
I think the issue was the fact that people felt that a decision was taken immediately at the point when the incident happened, instead of the club being given an opportunity to be charged and then come back. Which issue, like I said, was then advised to the club in writing. It's not that a decision was made immediately. Unfortunately, there were certain things which I think happened at the time, which pointed to the fact that others thought a decision had been made immediately. But the club was actually then retained to formally to show that actually no decision had been made, because the club was then retained to formally to say this is what happened on the day. Harare Volleyball is not happy with 1, 2, 3 in terms of our rules and regulations, and therefore we are charging you with bringing the volleyball fraternity to disrepute, and these are the penalties which we would want to effect on you.
Unfortunately, time is not on our side, Chairperson. We have wanted to talk and talk, but lastly, your experiences. There were obviously the good and the bad during your tenure. What were the bad and what were the good?
I think the good was I worked with a tremendous executive. I really enjoyed working with the executive which I worked out with. I believe that we put in all our energies 100% to elevate Harare Volleyball, and that I think we did a good job. I think for the first time in a long time, people were able to get some prize money. It's not the best, because when you look at it and then it's divided among executive clubs, and it's not really the best. But you need to start somewhere, and then you improve on that as you go along. Right? My worst is I feel that there are people within the volleyball fraternity who believe they are gatekeepers of volleyball. They feel that they need to be the. I'm trying to find the right word. They feel that they need to have a say in how certain things are done, and they must remain being done. It's a sense of entitlement and a sense of that the volleyball only should be run by these people. It's sad. I'll give you an example. I've heard words like "Vanwe volleyball chayo," right? And these are words which have been spoken sometimes by quite prominent people in volleyball. And I always wonder, which do I say "Vanwe volleyball chayo"? What is it? We all have different strengths. We all have different weaknesses which we bring to the table. So hakuna munhu anofana kuzozviti ndini munhu wevolleyball chaiye because you are very strong in coaching, for example.
Yes.
Somebody else is good in administering. Azvireve kuti haasisiri munhu wevolleyball chaiye. Somebody else has never played the
sport. Before you
yes.
continue with that statement. Yes. Is it part of the reason why you are leaving? You are leaving
not at all.
To go and work for
not at all. No. A lot of the statements were said after I intended in my resignation.
Okay.
They had been said previously. I think you commented sometime in October, unfortunately without checking with me then, to say the allegations that I want to resign. At that time, one of the issues was around that particular sentiment, to then say there were people who I felt that their intentions were not honorable at best. That's how I would like to put. But it was never, because I continued and we finished the season very well. My resignation is purely from a personal and professional level. But all I'm saying is, when you ask me what my experience is,
yes.
And I'm saying my worst experience has been the fact that there are people who I feel in volleyball do have a sense of entitlement, who do believe that they are the sole keepers of volleyball in Harare, and therefore that they should be able to be seen as such, which is quite sad, because it is pushing away sponsors, it is pushing away potentially new people and new blood into the various leadership organizations from club level, provincial level, even up to national level. If we don't do away with that, we are going to realize that we're going to remain a sport which is on the periphery. If you look at sports, for example, like tennis, look at cricket, etc., there's been some renewal of leadership which has taken place from club levels right up to national level, and you start to see some of the benefits starting to bear fruit. If you look at our current rugby team, what they were 4 or 5 years ago is a totally different animal to what they are now, and that is all emanated from the fact that they were able to start absorbing in new blood allowing people to start flourishing, have new ideas, and let those ideas bear fruit and move forward. Cricket is another example. At international level, when T20 cricket started, there were those who were vehemently opposed to it. They felt that it was never going to succeed, it was not aligned with the true values of cricket then. But the younger people were coming on board, realized that the new generation does not always have time to sit for 5 days watching a test match. At best, they want 2 to 3 hours, just like they do with soccer. And 2020 cricket was the solution. But that only happened because there was now a new breed of people who were coming on board, were able to start questioning and start bringing these new ideas and allow them to flourish. And we need that to happen to volleyball from club levels. At club level, people need to start asking themselves, how are we running our clubs? Are we running them to the best? How do we make sure that we develop our clubs? From scouting for new players, keeping the players who are there. How many players should we have in the first place? These are all things which should now be points of discussion right from club level. Then this renewal will also take place at provincial level, then to national level, and our sport will only grow better. But until we get to that point where we have these sole keepers, if they still remain the dominant force in volleyball, I'm telling you that our sport will always remain in the periphery.
Yeah, the chairman has talked there, and if you can see also in football, there was once the mighty Dynamos and Highlanders, but goals have shifted. Now we've got the Scotland of Zimbabwe, we've got Zimbabwe taking the storm. Viewers, time is out, and it was nice talking to the chairperson of the Harare Volleyball Association, and I think this is the last time we are going to talk to him as the Harare Volleyball Association chairperson.
Yes,
I think we will get him some time and talk about volleyball. I think the passion is not gone. He's still very much in love with the sport of volleyball. That was it, and my name is Thomas Mangwiro. My guest today was Shadreck Chinemberi, and this is the program brought to you by MNL and partnered by Gemcon, the HotSeat. Let's meet again in the next programs. I am out.